Hi guys, just before we get into today's episode with Emily Kybird, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't already, please do subscribe and like on this video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. It just helps me reach more people and get more of these stories out to people like yourself who really need it. And so I'll stop babbling now and we can get into the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Chronic Comeback Podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have on the show Liz Campbell. She is here today to talk to you about her story and experience with Lyme disease. She is a constant source of hope, positivity, and inspiration across her social platforms and her own website as well. And she's the exact kind of person we love to have on the show. So thank you so much for coming on, Liz. I'm really excited for you to come on and share your story.
I am so excited to be here. I am just so honored to be a part of this mission that you're creating and share my story and hopefully encourage someone who was where I was a couple of years ago that you can get better. So thank you so much for having me.
No worries. So let's get into it then. So what I'd like to do is just go back to the beginning of your health story. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what life was like before you actually got sick, assuming that you can remember times like that. I know there are some people that come on the show who've always been sick, and then there's others who were completely healthy and then got sick. So could you just give us a little bit of the story at the beginning of this and how you started to get symptoms and take us through that initial part of the story?
Yeah. So for me, my health journey started when I was really little. This is actually kind of a hot topic right now, and I'm not trying to bring it up because it is, but it's just part of my story. I developed chronic hives after getting some of my 4-year-old shots. And so I had always just been really sensitive to medication, always got sick really easily, had very sensitive skin, just would break out to anything like sitting in the grass, like just so weird. So I had chronic hives from 4 years old till about 2.5 years ago. And that kind of started just this weird, I don't know, I just always had weird things going on with my health, as I know a lot of people can relate in this community. And then let's see, when did Lyme start? So I was about...
Can I just ask you I've heard hives before, but I don't know if I think it's maybe an American. What are hives? Is it some like rash on the skin or something like that?
Yes. It's like a blotchy rash. It kind of is like you have the chicken pox, but it's just like you just break out in these like red blotchy things and they itch. Yeah.
And is it, so when you started to get that, when you were just a young girl, was that when you went to the doctors? Is it some kind of virus? What did they explain it with, and what did they give you? What did they give you to help treat it?
Yeah, so basically they treated it as an allergic reaction. And so I was given like pretty high dose, like prednisone, I think, which is antihistamine. I'm not sure if that's right, but anyways, I ended up being on antihistamine for like almost 16 years, which can do a lot of damage in and of itself, which is, it's taken a long time to kind of reverse the effects of that. But we just didn't really have any other option because I wouldn't be able to go to school because these hives would just like take over if I didn't take the medicine. So I got the dose down really far, where I was only taking like a quarter of the tablet a day because my mom was like really not intense, but she really knew the effects of like how modern medicine can help with acute things, but it's not the best long term. So she really wanted to find another option. I was dealing with those chronic hives until 2.5 years ago, but then it was just like something that I lived with, like anyone, like an allergy. And it wasn't until my freshman year of high school, I had gone to a weekend retreat in the woods, and we were just like outside a lot. And I got basically like what we thought was the flu for like 3 weeks after that. I just remember going to the doctor every Monday for like a month. And I was like, okay, I'm back. Like, I still have the flu. Can you help me? And so he was actually an awesome pediatrician. He looked a lot deeper than most medical doctors would, or conventional doctors would, and really wanted to try to help me get to the bottom of that. I got tested for lupus, all the autoimmune things. Nothing came back except for that my iron was a little low. And yeah. Oh, you asked me what life was like. So basically, before that point, I was like the Energizer Bunny. Like, literally, people would call me that. I danced. I wanted to become a professional ballerina. I danced sometimes max 15 hours a week. I just loved it so much. I was so dedicated. That was all I could see myself doing with my life. And yeah, I even homeschooled so that I could put all my time and energy into dance. And yeah, I prided myself on being able to do all the things all the time, which in hindsight, I'm like, okay, there was a reason that ended in me being in bed for 5 years. But anyways, going back, I was just like always doing the social things, always like pushing myself no matter what it took to be a more than full-time dancer, try to run, work out, train on top of that every day. Like, I legitimately just loved to work and push my body. And that was my medicine. Whenever I was stressed, I would just go for a run. Or I would go to the studio and dance and just sweat it out. And so that was my coping mechanism. So when I got sick, going back to my freshman year, when I got sick for those 3 weeks to a month, I was like, okay, this is weird, but it wasn't like a chronic, like indefinite thing at that point. I was just like, okay, maybe I got mono and I didn't test for it or something. And so I couldn't dance really. I would have to have like my mom come pick me up after school, like, and from the studio, because I would just either have to take a nap at the studio because I had a migraine, or I just legit did not have the energy to even like get dressed, get ready to dance, like anything. And so that was so weird because it was just like immediate 180. Like, I was just like going, doing everything. And I had done that for 8 years. Like, it wasn't anything like crazy that I was overdoing all of a sudden. It was something I'd done for 8 years. And so yeah, I really couldn't really like live my life like I wanted to anymore. But I pushed through. I made it through that school year. And then like summer came. I wasn't so stressed out with school and everything, so I could rest a little bit more. And then decided that it was going to be the best for me to step back from dance going into the next school year. And I was 16 at this point. And that was one of the hardest things that I've ever done because that was my whole life. But basically at that point, I would go to school all day and then have to come home, take a nap, wake up around like 7 at night, do my homework, go back to sleep, wake up, barely make it through the school day, being like so tired. Looking back, I can now see like some of my friends would be like, why, like, you just seem like you're tired like all the time. And I'd be like, I know, I don't know why. It's so weird. And so then after a couple months of doing that, I just completely crashed. I could not get off the couch, couldn't get out of the bed. I was just like completely debilitated. And the worst part is like no one could tell me why. No one could tell my parents why. We went to doctor after doctor after doctor for like 3 months, and they would send us to the next specialist and, oh, try that department, and just nothing. And yeah, like similar to your story, after the end of probably the last few doctor's appointments we went to, once we'd gotten like to the last person they would send you to, they'd be like, okay, you know, she has like 16 teenagers get depressed. I'm going to recommend that you take her to a counselor, to whatever. And my mom she was my champion through all of this. Of course, both my parents were, but my mom is like very feisty, and she knew, even when I doubted myself, even when I was like, I think I just might be making this up, because I legitimately felt crazy at that point, because I couldn't do anything. And then I would have like my little brother telling me every day, like, stop faking it, And now he's actually been through Lyme, and like, it's like, oh my gosh. So there's been a lot of forgiveness there. But so it was just like everything I felt like was pointing to, you're just making this up. Why can't you just get out of bed? And that was the voice in my head that was telling me that too. And so my mom thankfully believed that there was something wrong with me and kept pushing. We went to all these different alternative doctors, looked at different alternative treatments, got tested. We're going to this weird, we called him the witch doctor. Um, he did muscle testing at that point, which now has been one of the things that got me better, which is so cool. But he went through all of his regular things that he tests people for allergies. And then he was like, you know what? I think since you haven't seen any change, I'm just going to try Lyme disease. And I remember, like, I can go back there today. Like, I remember getting in the car after that appointment and being like, we have the answer. And it wasn't even like I got diagnosed, or he was just like, I think this might be it. And I was like, it was just like this whole wave of relief like came over me, which was really cool. But just to have that answer, and that like, okay, I'm not insane, I'm not just like making this up, was just like everything for me at that point. And so I did his little like muscle testing treatment for that. That's definitely not the technical words, but I don't remember what it was at this point.
Kinesiology. Well, I've done muscle testing before with a kinesiologist. So I don't know if that's the same thing.
Yeah, it was kinesiology. I just can't remember. He gave me some kind of herbal treatment that he tested me for. Right. And I don't remember what it was at that point. But I was the best I had been. I had like 2 weeks of just like going back to school again. That was another thing. I wasn't able to go to school for like a whole year. Yeah, I was just literally on the couch. And so, yeah, it was just so overwhelming. My whole life just like came to this immediate halt. And like at that point, it had been probably like 4 months, and like it wasn't so bad. Like I was just like, okay, I think I can recover. I think I can get back to normal. I just want to get back to life. So I had 2 weeks where I was feeling better. Then typical thing, like crash, went back, got even worse. And that cycle repeated itself until I officially got diagnosed with Lyme about 6 months after that. And so that was really good to have that official diagnosis. Again, just that validation. And then that doctor started treating me with different alternative and just a combination of conventional and alternative. But I didn't really see any improvement in my symptoms. And he also diagnosed me with mold. And so that was really helpful, really key. We got our house completely remediated, which is super helpful. And yeah, and because of that, my brother also had started having those weird symptoms too. So my parents were like, what's going on with our kids, And so from there on, I was treating the mold, treating different allergies that he was testing me for, treating the Lyme, all of that. And I think I had some different co-infections. But yeah, I was like, at least I have a way forward. I wasn't able to go back to school again for a whole another year. I was on what they call homebound. So I had a teacher that would kind of relay all my homework and kind of teach me at home in a way. Yeah. I wish I had just homeschooled again at that point, because that would have been a lot easier. But I, again, am very driven. When I set my mind on something, I'm going to do it. And so I was like, I'm going to graduate from this high school. And so I did, even though I didn't actually go to it physically for 3 years. So yeah, anyways, high school kind of wrapped up. I was in no shape to go to college. And so I decided to take a gap year, and I was like, okay, I'm going to spend this 1 year and like give it all I got. And I was like, okay, God, I'm giving you this year, get me better. I'm sacrificing this. And now I'll be better, get back to my like life plan, go to college, meet a boy, probably get married, just live the normal life. And that was not how that went one bit. I got so much worse. We went to several different doctors, tried a really intense herbal protocol. Was the worst I'd ever been on that. Like, could not even get out of bed. I had to like get my parents to get me from the bed to the bathroom and back, and that was like my activity for the day. It was absolutely insane. Ended up doing a lot of IV treatments. That led to all my veins like blowing out, and they became unusable. So I had a port implanted in my chest, which is this scar right here, and then had a lot of complications with that. It was so weird. I ended up having to get like 3 surgeries with that port in and out, and that just became like its own problem in and of itself. But I learned so much through that, because that was like definitely my lowest point, because it was just like 4 months of this drawn out process of I'm getting worse. I was supposed to get better in this year. Now I'm worse. I got this port that's supposed to help me. They couldn't access the port. And then it was like months and months of them trying to access support without being able to. So that's really stressful. And if you don't know what a port is, it's basically this little device they implant in your chest, or I think you can do it in your arm, and they have a needle that just sticks right through your skin. So mine, I don't know why the surgeon did this, but he put it like really deep into my chest. This I'm sorry, this is gross. It grosses me out still. But so they like couldn't get it. It was too far deep for the needle. So that was like a whole traumatic event of them just trying to access that with a needle for like 2 months and not being able to. So anyways, got that port out, a new one in. The surgery, they didn't give me any pain medicine for, so it was like really intense. So that was a very big trauma that I like actually blocked out for so long, because I like lost all control of my body, because it was just like this intense pain. So it was just like that self-protecting mechanism kicked in, and was just like I like had this like weird out of body experience. It was crazy. But yeah, so I was able to finally have a port that worked, was getting some like ozone treatments at that point. That was helping, because it was like super oxygenating and just creating that energy, which was my biggest thing. I just never had energy, and I had so much joint pain in my legs. And those were my 2 main symptoms. And then the brain fog was just like so overwhelming. And we didn't realize that was part of Lyme in high school. And so like trying to take tests was insane. Like I would just be sitting there, and like it would take me like I'd have to reread a question like 6 times to get like fully understand it. And yeah, it would just take me forever to do anything. My friends would call it like the Dory brain, because I was just like so ADD. But yeah, so all those symptoms just continued to persist, and I was just like, okay, I have to take another year off, because there's no way that I can try to even study or go to college or live on my own at this point. I was so dependent on my parents for everything, because I couldn't do anything for myself. And it was just like this overwhelming, like I just felt like such a burden. And yeah, that was emotionally, that was incredibly challenging, just to like feel like I couldn't do anything for myself after my whole life up until that point of getting sick. I was so independent and did everything on my own. I mentioned how I homeschooled when I danced, and I taught myself everything, because I was just that person. That was just my personality. I just did everything on my own. I was very driven. And so it was just, I felt like I just kept losing more and more and more of me. And I was like, when will I ever feel like myself again? And I just couldn't even remember what it felt like to just like laugh for fun, or just find myself humming or singing in the day, or like anything. And so all of that, yeah, just continued for a whole nother year that I took off. So I took 2 years off after high school. And I was finally like, you know what? I don't even care at this point. I'm taking this into my own hands. I'm getting better. And I signed a lease on an apartment for 6 months later to move in and start college. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I just kind of put all my eggs in one basket. And I was like, this is not something I've done before, but I'm just believing I'm getting better. And this is me like investing into that belief.
Mm.
So I had been looking on Instagram and followed so many different Lyme accounts, so many different influencers that have Lyme and chronic illness and stuff. And I shared my journey a little bit on the, Instagram. And I had seen this one girl I'd follow. She was like, I got this like cure treatment. And the doctor was explaining it, and they were just like acting like it was like the last treatment she'd ever get. And I was like, that's so weird, because people just don't talk like that around Lyme and Lyme treatment. I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. And so I ended up getting that treatment. It was called the SOT treatment. I'm not sure if you've heard of
No, I've
that.
not heard of that. No.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like your body's own natural, how did they describe it? It's been a while since I talked about that. But anyways, basically what it does is they take your blood and send it over to a lab in Greece. I think it's the only lab in the world that does it. And they take out the Lyme bacteria specifically in your blood. And they take the RNA, which is like the DNA replicator, and they take that out and then create an artificial RNA for that Lyme bacteria, and they send that back to you and infuse that into your body. So basically it doesn't kill the Lyme or anything. It just like makes it so it can't replicate. Then it dies off within 100 days. So I was like, okay, that seems pretty legit. Out of everything we've tried, that makes a lot of sense. So I got that treatment, and I was like, they talked about like how some people were like gone from being in a wheelchair to like riding horses again in like a week. And I was like, that's going to be me. And that was not me. But I do believe it did help. And I do believe it was that just like that switch in my brain that was like, this has got to work. I'm getting better. And it was that validation I needed, because up until that point, we had a friend with POTS who was like laid out on his back for a year. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong, but they knew he had POTS. And so he tried the brain retraining program, DNRS, and was hiking out in Utah, like the biggest mountains in the US, in a month. And I was like, okay, there's something to that. Like, I can't not pay attention to that, because his mom was like, I really think you should do this. And my mom was like, you need to do this. But I was just like, no, like I have Lyme disease. You can't just heal Lyme disease from changing how you think. Like I needed something very validating, some cutting edge treatment that was like going to validate how sick and broken and messed up I felt I was. And so my parents were like, okay, we'll do the SOT treatment if you do this brain retraining program. So it had been like over a month. I wasn't seeing any changes with the SOT treatment. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll give in. I'll do it. And that was one of the most challenging things. I don't think I've ever had that much resistance to a treatment. And now I know that like usually the thing you resist the most is what's going to help you the most. That's something I teach my clients a lot too in my own coaching program. And so I did it. I like did the boot camp. But I only did it for 3 weeks, because I got to the point where I was like, okay, all this science makes sense. I get how this works, but the whole way that they implemented into their practices and what you do on a daily basis just did not feel sustainable to me. And it wasn't natural, and it wasn't like something I enjoyed. It was like a chore for me. And so I had been working with I don't know if you've heard of craniosacral therapy.
Yeah. I've had one of the many treatments I've tried. I actually do respond quite well with that. Yeah.
Same. That was something that really helped me a lot, especially with a lot of digestive issues I'd had. So I had been working with this craniosacral therapist for about 1.5 years at that point. It helped me so much. And she had kind of become a like life coach to me in a sense, and just like really helped me make those mindset shifts that I had no clue of, because I was just so stuck in that, like, I'm sick, my life sucks, I'm just gonna wait to start living until I get better mentality. And So she had really helped me a lot. And I was like, okay, I know that that helped. So I think that this brain retraining process could work, but it just didn't seem natural. It wasn't fun. I'm someone who, like, if it's not fun and enjoyable, I'm just not going to do it. Like, very all or nothing, especially at that point. And so I worked with her. We kind of created my own little system of just things I would do for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, just quick little like self-talk mindset tricks. So I kind of just developed this my own like combination of things to retrain my brain. And then I realized through that process that as you're seeing such fast, like I literally was running again in a month at that point. Like, it was crazy. I had been like on the couch for 5 years, and then I was running. And it like, none of us could believe it. I actually was looking through my Instagram archive stories a couple weeks ago, and I was like looking at the dates, and I was like, okay, starting my like brain retraining journey. And then like 2 weeks later, I had gone on like just a fun trip, and I would never just go on a fun trip. Like, it was always to go to the doctor if I traveled. I had gone and seen my sister, who was like 8 hours away, who like I would have never been able to do that because car rides were like the worst for me. And it was just fun. And like, it was just all, I know I'm saying fun a lot, but it was like, life was just fun again. And like, I was like, oh my gosh, I just didn't know that like I could ever enjoy life again. And like, I just remember I was like dancing all the time, just like in the kitchen. I would just have music blasting, and like I couldn't even listen to music that much for like the last 2 years that I was sick, because it was so draining and just that sensory overload. And yeah, it was just like birds were like singing again. It was just this magical time. And I felt like I got my life back, but like better than before. But with that came a lot of emotional baggage that I just hadn't dealt with from being in that survival mode for so long. And also, like I was saying, like my lifestyle before I got sick is what led me to get sick. That overwhelm and that being in that chronic stress for so long of overdoing, pushing through, and not respecting and honoring my body was what led to a chronic illness. Because we, like so many people in the world, have this Lyme bacteria in them. It's just, what is their circumstances and what is the environment that their body's in and that's surrounding them that's causing them to be able to be healthy and it not affect them, or to be completely wrecked by it, you know? So I don't remember where I was going with that, but
No, I think you were saying like you had emotional baggage afterwards to
yes.
yeah. So where are you? So you got to the point where, and just how long ago was this, by the way, when you had done the brain retraining and seen that massive improvement?
Yeah. So that was 2.5 years ago. So February and March of 2019.
And your hives improved as well.
Mm-hmm. Just
Wow.
completely gone. It was just like bang, 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 like everything just like completely like dissipated.
And so I've got a lot of questions about so just if you could just maybe finish the rest of it, just in terms of like the last 2.5 years, then was it a case of you just went from strength to strength and now you're feeling great? Were there still down days? Like how could you take us through the last part?
Yeah. So I definitely noticed like physically I was improving, but I would notice when I had more of a down day, like we all do as human beings, like have slower days. I would notice myself getting back into that pattern of, oh my gosh, I'm getting sick again. And so with that came me addressing these things that I had pushed off for so long, of like me feeling like I was burdened, me feeling like if I didn't show up and I wasn't doing everything, then I wasn't worthy of living life. And just feeling like letting go of all of the emotional baggage that was leading to that all or nothing mindset, that was just feeding that cycle. And getting to the root of like, okay, why didn't I listen to my body? Why didn't I think I was enough as I was? And starting to accept that those different parts of me that felt like she had to always be doing more and always be the life of the party, or just like feel like be able to accept the parts of me that I deemed as unworthy. And so that through the 2.5 years, I have just been working on healing that relationship with myself. And I have definitely had time. So like I said, I signed that lease. I went back to school, and 3 months in, I had stressed myself out. Obviously, college is a lot. And I had like a week where I had the shingles. Actually, that was something that was also present. The last 2 years of me being sick, I had the shingles like 16 times. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just that stress. Whenever I would get overly stressed, like when you have a chronic illness, you're already living in constant fight or flight mode, which is stress. And so when I would just like be trying a new treatment or something, like it was always this hand, like it would just break out in these shingles, and it was crazy. So I hadn't had the shingles since I retrained my brain and got better. And then I had them for a week, and then I was like, okay. I started noticing myself going back down that rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, I'm getting sick again. How did I end up here again? And then being able to be like, oh wait, I have the tools. I know how to do this, and like be able to support my body and support my nervous system and calm it down, and like basically put out all the little fires that I felt like were like dangerous to me, and just like be able to calm my mind and let those worries just like kind of fade away, and not have to attach myself to them and be like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking this, so then I'm going to get sick again. Because that was a big thing. I was like, I got into this like perfectionistic like mindset of like, oh my gosh, if I have a thought like I used to when I was sick, then I'm going to get sick again. Because I was like, I knew the power of our thoughts, but I also have since then, and since crashing a few more times for like a week or a couple days or something in these past few weeks, or even like during quarantine, I like really, my body just needed that time to kind of recoup and rest. And so I just continued to pour into myself and become aware of what I can do on like a personal level, and just like continue that, I guess, like personal development journey after that, of just stepping into full presence. Because when we're fully present, we are able to let go of all those limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, whether that's going to be that like no matter what we do, we're just going to sick again, or we're going to fail at everything we do. Because that's what keeps you in that cycle. And that's what was keeping me in that cycle of, I would get a little bit better and then I would crash again, or I would be good for like 6 months and then I would have a few weeks where I would just crash. And so being able to let go of that belief, and I guess like rewrite the memories that were associated with that from my past, I was able to fully let go of that belief and step into the present moment. And now I'm at a place where I have in the past year dropped out of school, started a like gluten-free, vegan, all the health things, bakery during quarantine. Realized that wasn't what I wanted to like make my mark on in the world with, and started my own mentoring business where I've been able to share everything that I've done with all the mentoring programming, emotional release work, and just mindset work in general, and give that to the world basically through my clients. And so that's been an incredible thing to watch. And it actually all started this past year with my brother. He had just been really struggling. He had gotten the same SOT treatment that I had gotten, but hadn't really seen any improvement in his symptoms. The lab results were amazing. Like we don't have Lyme disease anymore. but his symptoms weren't changing. And so he was like, obviously what you've done has worked. And so can you just like help me and point me in the right direction? So, and I had already started like creating this coaching program. So he was my first client, and I got to see him go from like falling asleep. He has narcolepsy too. So that's when you just like fall asleep like throughout the day and you can't really control it. So I got to see him going from like not being able to control that and being like basically a victim to whenever his body decided to just shut down during the day, to then like only having to take his medicine like once a day that keeps him like alert and have energy throughout the day and like have confidence in himself again.
Mhm.
And he ended up like taking this internship this summer where he was working from 6 a.m, walking door to door. And just what was he doing? He was, anyways, it was a really intense internship. He was working from 6 a.m to about 10 o'clock at night for 3 months. And he came back even more vibrant and like energized. And I was like it's crazy. And for that to be my brother, like, and to see him like have his personality again and just like be able to pursue his dreams has been so cool. And so it's just kind of bandwagon. My sister had Lyme too. She was my next client, and it's just kind of snowballed from there. But it's been
First of all, your story's amazing, what you've been through, and also just coming through, and actually your life just being so different now, and in my opinion, and I'm sure yours, just so much better having been through it. Just going back to so I feel like you're on the show for a reason, because I'm basically this whole brain retraining thing. I'm having a lot of people that's coming on the show at the moment talking about it, and it's something that it's similar to you. I'm actually a very all or nothing kind of person as well, and I tried to do the Gupta program. Have you heard of the Gupta? Yeah. And his voice really got on my nerves, and
I was the same with the DNRS. I was like, I cannot stand this woman.
Really? Well, so that's the thing I'm struggling with at the moment. So like, I know I need to do it, and I think it's kind of potentially one of the missing pieces for me. But I know with the Gupta program, it like you just said, it seemed very unrealistic that I could do that all the time. But there was actually someone else who was on the show who runs a brain retraining thing, so I might work with her. But I guess so is the thinking behind it, just so for people to know, is the thinking behind it is that once because obviously I know that you're always in this state of fight or flight, and so your body thinks there's something wrong, so it creates symptoms, because that's what happens when it's wrong, and it's this vicious cycle. When you let it know it's safe, does that mean then the rest of your body can function as normal, and it can fight things like Lyme and mold, and it doesn't see them as bad things, and it can deal with them like a normal person? Is that right?
Yeah, it's just getting your body into the state, because our bodies are so capable. Like if you look throughout history, we have come from like the caveman days to like we've survived a lot, and our bodies are capable of doing challenging things. It's just, are they in the right environment? And so when our body and our nervous system is in the place where it's relaxed and it doesn't perceive everything as danger, it can heal itself. It has that ability. And I've seen it like with my sister. She didn't get the treatment we got, and she got better in 2 weeks. Like, it's crazy. And so when we just are able to, number one, calm our nervous system and have it be in that calm rest and digest for the majority of the day, it's going to change your quality of life and how your body is able to run. Because not when it's in that fight or flight state, to survive and preserve energy, it lessens the capacity at which all of our systems are working. So if your systems aren't working at their full capacity, obviously you're not going to be able to detox correctly. You're not going to be able to have a cardiovascular system that's like pumping and like working at its best. And so when we can get into that place of just being present again, because presence is what allows, being fully present is what allows our nervous system to be calmed. So when we can get there and make that a sustainable place that we wake up, and that's just our automatic thing that our body runs on, is just this like full presence and just being calm, then you kind of become unstoppable. But the reason that like it sounds amazing and it sounds so awesome, and just change the way you think and change the way that your brain perceives life and what it perceives as dangerous to be okay now, and it can handle that. That all sounds amazing. But the thing that keeps us from actually being able to fully step into that, and why it's taken me a full 2.5 years to get here, is because of these limiting beliefs and these self-sabotaging patterns of doubt that we are capable of doing that. And that's what's crept up. And that's why I feel that the emotional component to healing and working through the trauma that we've been through, not only from Lyme or chronic illness, but your whole life, there's just so much that doesn't get dealt with. And so it kind of becomes this like almost emotional constipation in our body that it has to hold on to all this stuff. And when we don't release that and transform and rewrite the past, and so that our body trusts us and it sees us as someone who is capable of following through with these, even on like a simple level of following through with the brain retraining activities every day, then we can actually do those activities and be consistent with them and get better.
Yeah. Someone actually, someone said something, it was someone's on the podcast recently, and they said a reason maybe why you don't actually do everything you need to do in a particular day for your health is because there is that limiting belief that you don't think you're going to recover. So why would you bother? And I thought that was really interesting, because I was like, well, that's surely I don't think that. But then actually, if I truly believed that every single one of those things would get me better if I did them, then I would do them. So I thought it was really interesting when I heard that. What would you say? So now, I touched upon it earlier. In what ways is your life better now as a result of what you've been through, would you say?
Oh my gosh. I literally, I now see this period and this experience that I've had with Lyme as the absolute best gift I could have been given in my whole life. Not only have I learned so much, but I don't have that like anxiety that I used to even before getting sick, of just like feeling like I have to measure up to this unrealistic standard. And yes, that's still in the background, but I know that that voice and that thought and that limiting belief isn't who I am. And so I have the power over it. Like, not all of the worries and the little things in life get to me anymore. Like, I literally see life as a party, and I get the choice to wake up every morning and see, like, okay, if I get on my phone and look at this and focus on how I'm not enough, that leads to me showing up in the rest of my day as someone who believes she's not enough. So she's not going to show up well for her clients. She's not going to do what she really wants to do and pursue the dreams she really wants to live and create for her life. And why I think like our daily routine is so important is because what we do each day is what our life becomes. And so it's just about those little moment by moment choices during your day of who am I choosing to believe I am in this moment. Where we can choose to believe that we are the best version of ourselves that is capable of living the life that we want to live, and that's capable of actually getting better. Then that trickles out into everything we do. I would have never probably started my own businesses, let alone started 3 in the past 1.5 years. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that, because hindsight is 2020, and I've learned from all of those. But not everyone needs to create 3 businesses. But I have had the motivation and the drive and been able to use those things that are so deeply ingrained in me for good and to use them in a way that is helpful to me and to my goals and not destructive to my body anymore.
Awesome. And what would you say to someone who's listening to this right now, who's going through, who's at that darkest time in their recovery period, and they really don't believe, they're saying to them, they're listening to, even when when I put out stuff about brain retraining, I get a lot of people who kind of, turn their nose up it and say, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
But what's your advice to people, not necessarily about brain retraining, but just to someone who's going through the toughest time at the moment, for them to keep going and keep trying?
Yeah, I would say I was exactly where you're at. I didn't think anything would work for me. I basically put a death sentence on my life. I didn't really think I would make it past 25. And I would say stop fighting where you're at. The more you resist these feelings that you'll never get better, the more that's what your focus is going to be. And that's the pattern you're going to be stuck in. So be where you're at. Let yourself be really freaking upset that you're sick and feel that. And know that it's okay to feel that, because while it's not your fault that you got where you are and that you're sick. It's our responsibility on how we choose to move forward. So, number one, let yourself feel bad. Get mad, get angry, throw yourself a pity party, but don't stay there. Let that be what catapults you into leaving that in the past and moving forward and setting the intention that you are now worthy of waking up and choosing how you want to live your life. And it is capable. And that might sound really annoying right now, and that's okay that sounds annoying, but you will get better if you choose to. It is a choice in the end. And I'm rooting you on. Phil is rooting you on. Like, you're not alone in this. And there's so many people here cheering you on.
Awesome. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. It was just, I think it will resonate. I mean, it resonated a lot with me with my journey, but also just gave me a little bit of a shot in the arm that I need to really get on with the brain retraining stuff I know I need to be getting on with. If people want to connect with you, reach out to you, I know you're really active on a lot of different channels. What's the best way of them doing that?
Yeah, you can follow me on my Instagram. It's at Liz Campbell. And yeah, I'm very active on my stories and just always sharing trainings on how you can start your healing journey and do this mental and emotional healing there. So
awesome. How did you get that handle? That must have been Liz Campbell.
Oh, okay. It actually is Liz Campbell with Lizz and Campbell. So 2 Z's, 3 L's.
Okay. Well,
there are a lot of Liz Campbells out there.
Yeah. Because a Liz Campbell out in the middle of nowhere would have got a load of follow requests.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll include that in the show notes anyway. But thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. I'm really excited to get it out there, and I'm sure there'll be an amazing response to it. So thank you so much.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it.